Hello and welcome to Wildberry Workshop. A little bit of lore drop. I, like so many, was a day one Stranger Things fan. From the beginning, the world just captivated me. The sci-fi elements, the nostalgic 80s set design, and most importantly, the insanely talented cast. You could not tell me anything about those kids, especially Millie Bobby Brown. One thing I remember clearly from those early days was how impressed people were with her performance. This show felt raw and real. No one felt like a caricature, and the emotional moments really hit. Like, before you knew the body in the water was fake and Will was alive, that scene with the kids seeing their friend and then the song Heroes playing in the background, that was like a gut punch. I remember when Joyce was talking to Will through the lights, and I fully believed she was crazy. Like, I thought they were gonna do something like that. Or how each of the teens had their own stereotype that they lean into and then subvert. The show just felt fresh and daring, like a mystery novel unfolding. With each passing season, we learned more and more about the Upside Down. And honestly, I loved the gimmicks, how the story separated only to come back together in the end, or how each season needed a frantic drawing scene. It worked for me. With the season and the series now at an end, I feel like it's a perfect time to recreate the kid that started it all. In my opinion, this is Season 1 Elle's most iconic look, so that's what I went for. The first step was to find a suitable doll. I chose this Skipper because I needed a closed mouth expression and she's the closest to Elle's age. Obviously, Elle is shaved, so I gave the doll a haircut. I was tempted to do the version of Elle that had the blonde wig, but in the end, I thought the challenge of figuring out how to flock a doll head was worth the authenticity. I ended up sectioning off the doll hair into 4 sections and keeping it in rubber bands so that I can make my own flocking later, but you'll see how much of a mess that was, so whether or not it was worth it, I'll let you decide. Honestly, when you consider Elle, who doesn't even have a name until season 2, she's a pretty tragic character. She was just a kid who was forced to kill and steal to survive. As much as I love the other characters, they put so much of their own survival on Elle, and I feel like you really see that in season 3. Elle is dealing with the meaty mind flayer, and physically doesn't even have enough limbs to extend. I'm not sure if there was another way around this, and she's the only character with true psychic powers in the original gang, but it's something I can't help but notice. I'm definitely using the wrong scissors for this. I had to use my fabric scissors because I don't know where the other, hair scissors are. I don't know. But yeah, I just cut it down as short as I could, and then once it was pretty short, I used the boil method to remove the head from the body and then just, go through the arduous process of scraping out the hair. Once the hair was totally off, I removed all the factory paint with 100% acetone and then painted a new hairline. I also painted the scalp a similar-ish color, so that way if any of it peeks out between the flocking, you won't really be able to tell. I didn't want to make the flocking too thick and, do its second layer because her hair is pretty short and buzz cut, and I didn't want it to look more like Pisky-esque. God, if anybody saw me doing all of this, you'd think I was crazy, because there's an undertone to dismembering dolls and removing their faces just to build them back up again. I don't know. I just like the characters. I like creating the character. But yeah, it's I don't even know. However, there is something really satisfying about seeing that blank slate. So here I'm using acrylic paint to paint the scalp, and then later on I'll go in with like a small brush to try to emulate little hairs and get her hairline right. I think the hairline is what makes it feel more like Elle, and I really didn't want it to feel like a hat, like a cap on her head, although that's kind of impossible to avoid when you have dolls because there's no real hair. The face is always the most intimidating part for me, and I've probably said that in every single video I've made thus far. I don't know if it's ever gonna get better. I don't know. I will say, like, I got this one in the first try. I think I got it. I think it was particularly in the eyebrows and the shading. I think that's doing a lot of heavy lifting in giving this an Elle expression. Also, adding the blush. I added a little on the nose, I added some on the cheek. So Millie is, I don't know how old she was in season 1, but super young. I think she might have been 12 or so. Or like the character was 12. So they don't add any makeup, but like adding that flush of pink really makes it feel alive. Another decision I made was I didn't want to varnish the eyes or lips because I didn't want to take away from the shadows in the eyebrow, but also because of the flocking, I didn't know if it would end up getting stuck in the varnish. I know it does set after a while, but I feel like it might still get a little tacky, and I just wanted to avoid that. So her eyes are going to be a little darker, but I think with the expression, that still works. The blood drop was a little tricky for me. I really didn't want to paint it on the face. Red is a strong pigment. It can stain. And I don't know. I just didn't know if I would want it in the long run. So I opted to create a blood drop sticker. And so I'm doing that with this nail polish. It looks more, I don't know, a little more purplish on camera, but in person it is like a true blood color. And I tried it out on parchment and saran wrap. The saran wrap, like, it wouldn't budge, so I just used the parchment one where it was able to flake off, and then I put it on double-sided tape, cut out a teeny tiny little blood drop shape, and then with tweezers stuck that on the face. Oh, the flocking. I followed a tutorial on how to make your own and use caulking to stick it on, and I'll just link the video because this is not going to be informational. Okay, to keep it short, I trimmed small little bits of hair and did that for hours. It's not that I would discourage you from spending hours cutting up bits of doll hair into a puffy pile, but if you can buy it, maybe just do that. This took so long and my hand was cramping, but eventually I did get there. My fingers ended up looking like the floor of a barbershop, but the caulking worked like a charm and really glued the hair to the head. It starts off white, but it dries clear. I press the head into the hair pile, or sometimes I just sprinkled the hair on and pressed it in with my fingers, and it all just came together pretty easily. Once it dried, the doll just came to life. There's been a lot of discussion about Millie's acting for season 5, which if you haven't seen it yet, watch it please. But I just want to say, By show of hands, how many of you guys would shave your head for a role? I'm not trying to be like ultra defender. There's a lot to criticize with the show, but I do think that there's also a lot that it does right and a lot that the actors do right. This next part is my attempt to show how I broke down the clothing pieces in my head. Basically, and keep in mind my art skills leave a lot to be desired, but the dress is made up of 6 parts. Top front, top back left, top back right, 2 sleeves, and 2 cuffs, and 1 circle skirt. I don't know where I was getting 6 from because that's 8. I just counted on my fingers. Then the jacket is 6 parts. The back, the 2 front pieces, 2 sleeves, and the collar. Just indulge me here, okay? I've been trying so hard to keep this video spoiler free for anyone who hasn't seen the finale, but let me know what you thought about it in the comments. As for me, my spoiler free review is that, faults aside, and trust me, there are lots of faults, from a writing perspective, from a technical perspective, blah blah blah, whatever. Personally though, I feel like it was a fitting ending for the story we've been given. It's a fitting ending for the story that, we started with 10 years ago. Honestly, it's crazy for me to think that I started watching the show when I was a sophomore in college. And nearly a decade later, I don't know, my life has changed so much. And I think part of the reason the ending hit so hard was because there's a part of me that's also mourning who I was and mourning my 20s. That's crazy. I'm just outing myself as an old woman. Also, if you didn't catch it, I happened to find the perfect fabric. It was an old H&M dress my sister gave me, and it had this scrunched back, which worked perfectly for the front of Elle's dress. And, what else? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Everything came together pretty easily in all 8 pieces that I showed you in my drawing, so if you're following along, keep up. If you are following along though, one thing I didn't mention in my drawing was I ended up adding a little tiny wire, like a thin wire, in the hem of the skirt because I added 2 extra panels in order to complete the circle, and it was just looking very ballerina-esque, so by adding the wire, it gave me the ability to mold it. So anyways, back to the story, and the story as a whole. I think that throughout the duration of Stranger Things, a lot of people have criticized it because they don't kill enough people, and it's dark, but it's not as dark as it could be. But I think that misses the mark and misinterprets what the story is about, in my opinion, right? Because when I watched it, I didn't see this as a story about monsters. I mean, like, yes it is, but also not really. You know what I mean? From the beginning, they've established the Lord of the Rings as an inspiration. And the Lord of the Rings doesn't kill anyone off. The Lord of the Rings actually has a relatively happy ending. A little bittersweet at the end, but everybody gets their happiness. And I think this is, instead of a monster story, it's like a character story that's set in a sci-fi world. A story about growing up and hoping for a better world despite the darkness that you're facing. Each person in the story has their own demons that they're fighting. And I'm not talking about demogorgons. You see, Mike, he's searching for purpose. He writes his stories, but he doesn't see himself in them. Will, he's looking for self-acceptance as he understands who he is beyond what people expect. Dustin also needs to learn to accept himself as he is, but he also needs to learn how to challenge himself. Lucas, I think, is the most self-actualized, but even he struggles with knowing who he is and who he wants to be. He looks to basketball as an escape from being seen as a nerd, but it doesn't work because he is a nerd, and he's good at basketball. Identities are complex. We see this with Max, who's the cool girl, the zoomer, and also one of Elle's closest friends. Max could have easily been just the typical characterization of a tomboy, but she's girly in her own way, and she brings this to Elle in season 3, giving Elle the opportunity to expand her world even more. But even Max is haunted by the tragedies in her past, and her own feelings of responsibilities. She has to learn to forgive herself and let the past go. As for Elle, it's probably obvious that she's searching for a home, and when she finds it, she'll do just about anything to keep it safe. But she's done bad things. I would argue again it was all in self-defense, but that still becomes one of her demons. I think that's one of the things I love the most about the show. Every character fights their own monster, and in that we can see our struggle in theirs. Okay, thank you so much for watching this long video. Let me know what you prefer, shorter content, long, ranty monologue type of video, or maybe more instructional videos. I don't know what I'm doing. Anyways, also let me know your thoughts about the show. Did you grow up with it? What's your favorite character? Mine's Dustin. I have way more videos planned for this year, including some Bridgerton dolls, some Bratz revamp dolls, think different outfits, and also a Bad Bunny Bratz doll. So if any of that sounds interesting, feel free to subscribe. I hope you have a splendid rest of your day, and I don't know. I don't have an outro. Anyways, thanks for watching.